Folks, 6 black churches from Ohio across the South have been set on fire since Dylan Roth's racist attack killed 9 people at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. Within the span of 1 week, the following churches have either been damaged or burned to the ground. June 22nd, College Hill Seventh-day Adventist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. On June 23rd, God's Power Church of Christ in Macon, Georgia. And 2 churches were burned on each of the following dates. June 24th, Briar Creek Baptist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Fruitland Presbyterian Church in Gibson County, Tennessee. On the 26th, Glover Grove Baptist Church in Warrenville, South Carolina, and the Greater Miracle Apostolic Holiness Church in Tallahassee, Florida. The burnings took place after demands for the removal of the Confederate flag, which is added to the racial tension. Of course, the FBI is investigating several of these church burnings. A couple of them have been declared an accident. One was caused by lightning, one by faulty wiring. But in 4 of these cases, they're saying it is indeed arson. Now, what's interesting is that several officials are saying it's not been classified as a hate crime, which don't quite understand that, considering you haven't arrested the person. So how do you know the motive if you haven't arrested the person? Of course, let's talk about it right now with our panel. Joining me right now, we have Bishop Harry Jackson, just to my right, with the Reconciled Church, also a pastor here in the D.C. area. Dr. Cleo Monago, behavioral health expert. Gina Page, president and co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com, and Huey Newsom, contributor with Project 21. Folks, I don't believe there's any coincidence that all of a sudden we are seeing these churches being burned. The FBI, they are now a part of this investigation, but I still don't understand how we can, why in this country we folks would say, oh, no, there's no hate crime. Burning churches, to me, is domestic terrorism. Just like the FBI director would not classify what Dylan Roth is domestic terrorism, this is domestic terrorism, and it's been terrorism against black folks since the founding of this country.
Well, that's been the historic pattern. We see that the churches have been attacked. Burning specifically, arson, would be a signature of the KKK. I think we all would agree on that. So the fact that you can't prove what's going on, 6-day cycle, it seems to me that it may be a reaction against the Confederate flag. That's conjecture on our part, but what I would say is that churches need to be vigilant. Folks need to watch for security. Something is afoot, and I think the nation is about to explode if positive action isn't taken.
And look, bottom line is, for a lot of these churches are located in rural areas, so it's not like it's a lot of folks living around there. And I understand from law enforcement standpoint, you don't want to jump to conclusions. But to me, to all of a sudden say, oh, no, it's arson, but it's not a hate crime, you simply don't know.
Well, Roland, as you mentioned before, with the FBI representatives talking down, saying that the murders of the people at Mother AME were not terrorist events, we should expect this. Every chance the media gets, it talks down the racial element to make sure, in my opinion, that black people don't get upset and go off. And unfortunately, that often works. I think it's important what you're doing here to bring it to our awareness that these are indeed terrorist acts and that black people should be concerned. But we're going to have to scream a little bit louder because a lot of us are hesitant to believe that is racially related as well.
I had Pastor Jamal Bryant of the Empowerment Movement on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and he said very simple. He said, Roland, you cannot convince me that if 6 synagogues had been burned down in a week,
I don't think they would have made it to 6.
Folks wouldn't be saying, oh, not a hate crime, not terrorism.
I don't think it would have.
Gina and Huey?
Well, I think too, I mean, regardless of what law enforcement calls it, it's a sure signal to our community that there's hate. And so I think that, like Cleo said, should be a motivation for us to speak up and to fight back and to raise awareness that we're not going to stand for this.
What I find surprising here is that there has been such limited coverage of these church burnings, right, in media in general. Because what usually happens is the public sees it, there's an outcry, and then law enforcement, prosecuting attorneys, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, whatever criminal justice organizations that are out there will come and react to that and actually give a fair recommendation of whether or not we should be looking at this as a hate crime, terrorism, whatever. That's not happening now because you don't see enough exposure from the media.
Yeah,
But
that's also because, let's just be honest, you don't have many black folks who are not only on the air as host, as managing editor. I mean, I have both of those titles, but you also don't have folks who are operating as executive producers, and you don't have many folks who look like us who are sitting in executive suites.
But
so if we're not driving coverage, I can guarantee you, okay, it's not going to get on air.
But here's, not to diminish the Confederate flag discussion, but look at the attention that was given to a flag versus the attention that's given to churches burning.
But the attention to the flag was also driven by us too.
Right.
They simply couldn't ignore it because there were 9 black folks dead, and we have photos of Dylan Roth holding Confederate flag. I mean, it's a little hard to try to run away from that image.
No,
and it goes beyond the media. I think the question of is this terrorism or not is a huge question. I don't know whether somebody in the administration is keeping score and saying, if we categorize these things as terrorism, it will make greater alarm in the nation. But I think we're in a place.
No. I don't think it's this administration. I think it's all administrations.
Okay.
We do not like to classify hate in America as terrorism. We want to label it to everybody else. We want to label it, if it's involving Muslims, terrorists, because we're trying to link back to Al Qaeda and ISIS. It was clear what happened in Boston. Oh, they call that terrorism. And when they had the Boston Marathon the following year, Homeland Security was there. You had the FBI. You had all these federal law enforcement agencies. But when it comes to black people in this country, we don't like to call it terrorism. We want to call it every other phrase. I'm saying it's terrorism.
Well, it is. KKK involvement was terroristic. Historically, all the definitions that they use for terrorism, I think you would agree, are in fact what the signature of the KKK is. So we got to redefine this thing and look at where we really are. The landscape is really rife with hate.
There's 2 problems here. The one problem is the racist tendency to marginalize terrorism against black people and call it something else. Then you have black people who are dealing with racism fatigue, going on new generations of racism fatigue and not wanting to deal with it and staying silent as well. So you got anti-black over here and black silence over there. You got churches that's going to just keep burning, and there's not going to be no outcry. I mean, Ferguson and these other places got outcry after Roland and just a few others made a big deal out of it. But the local communities were not making a big deal out of it. The black leaders need to talk to black folks about racism fatigue and being what I call in a post-white supremacy trauma trans. We're in a trance.
Hold tight 1 second. When we come back, we're going to pick up on this, but also we'll recap the funeral services of Reverend Clementa Pinckney killed at Emmanuel AME Church. Also, a historic ruling. The Supreme Court votes to make gay marriage legal across the country. And so we'll talk about that as well. Plus, Bree Newsom, this sister, she climbed the flagpole in South Carolina on Saturday, and she took it down. Something Governor Nikki Haley and others were afraid to do. The latest news, stay up to date and informed at news1.com. Hit me up with your thoughts on Twitter at Roland S. Martin, or go to News One or our News One Facebook page. It is 9 after the hour at News One Now on TV One.
Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.